Welcome to Graham Kerr's Kitchen. It's really two programs in one. This is a series that appeals to your creative side. Food that is sumptuous stuff. How can that be? This is a program about people who want to eat healthy and reduce calories. Actually, it's about food with an aromatic quality that fills the nose. Oh, sure, but it's also about keeping my arteries clean by reducing fat. But it doesn't mean a thing if the food isn't rich and colorful. Maximize the flavor. Okay, but I must have healthy food that I can cook in minutes. I must minimize the risk. So welcome to Graham Kerr's Kitchen, where we get our heads together just for you. It's wonderful to have you here because there's a great dish. As a matter of fact, it's a lamb dish, and it comes out of my past a little bit, but I've tinkered with it. Have you ever had a lamb shank, braised, so it's glossy brown, and you slip your fork into it, and it melts over your mouth like this? There's a lot of fat in that. But we're going to cure that one. Matter of fact, I'm going to make something like a pie with it. Using polenta, and I call this real comfort food. Comfort food is not, well, something which you have on a cold day. Now, comfort food is something which reminds you of your tradition and your culture. And in Lombardy, in Italy, this would be just real cultural stuff. Perhaps not with Swiss chard on the outside, braised and a little bit on the inside as well, but certainly it would be moving towards that. They love it there, and I mean, everybody's got a copper pan, and they have this wonderful device, a long wooden spurtle affair, and make sure that it's stirred properly, and it's just almost every day. It's really like a corn mush. But I'm going to turn that around a little bit. I want to be able to make this wine sauce with the lamb shanks braised in the center, and then to have a little jicama or cucumber salad on the side, which is fresh, to be able to take up the richness of it. And if that sounds like a nice menu item, you ready? Okay. Well, I have actually worn this outfit because I'm doing polenta to begin with. And polenta is really a corn mush. It's a cornmeal mush. And we're going to look at polenta and the different kinds that you can buy a little later on. But right as of now, the water should always be boiling vigorously, boil vigorously, when you start. And what you do, I've got the finer one here, and it's paler in color than the thick ground one, which is actually water ground, they call it. The moment that the bubbles start coming to the surface, and it should never leave the boil as you start whisking this in. And the thicker one, the heavier one, I say later on that it takes hours, and really that's not true. It does take between 20 and 40 minutes of stirring it. And I thought to myself, are you going to be prepared to do that? It just didn't seem realistic that would be the case. And so I just want to show you how this comes, providing that it is boiling. You just simply stir this, and right before your eyes, it will actually begin to thicken. Right? Now, they've got this rather neat method of having a spoon just like this one, and copper containers, and just keep on stirring it round and round laboriously. But oh, what delicate, wonderful flavor it is. It's just full and gorgeous. Now, you see how that's coming to the boil now? All right, now, about this point, it gets to be lethal, and that's the reason why I put the dots on the tie here, because you can get spattered. It goes everywhere. It's like Old Faithful. Tick, bloop, bloop, it's done. And when it hits you, it hits you. So stand back a little bit. Freshly ground pepper, lots of freshly ground black pepper in there. Managed to get a squeal out of my pepper mill. I mean, that's like laying rubber down on the floor when you on the cement when you've got your new car. That shows you that I've had a youth, doesn't it? Actually, it's not so far long ago. I think it was my son that did that. Here, just stir that around, and it becomes thick, glutinous, and wonderful. Now, bear with me. I would say give that about 5 minutes, and you'll be fine. Here's a plate with just a little dab of oil on the plate. Doesn't really soak up into the dish, but it helps to release it later on, especially with you there. So just take a brush and grease the 2 plates, and then after 5 minutes of cooking here, just pour that on the plate. Now that's one little yellow dab, and another one here. I want to make this one here smaller than this one. Now this one I'd like to make quite large, and that's probably large enough. But just tip the plate and roll it around. You don't need to spurtle it or anything else. Just roll it around until it's nice and flat and even. Same one there. This one about a good inch less than the other one. And both about ½ an inch thick. It's quite good, actually. Now, those, I just shove those down the end there and get them out of the way. They can be left out in the kitchen, and they go dry in and of themselves. But that's the trouble. The dryness, they can crack. And so I think perhaps in the fridge is a better idea, so they cool quicker and do well. All right, bed of roots. Now, pan on the heat here, and a teaspoonful of oil on the top. This is for a standard braise idea. Now, I don't mind if you can braise turkey thighs or braise a piece of veal, whatever it is, you could do this in exactly the way that I'm going to do here. Take an onion, a nice large onion, about a 10-ounce onion, and chop that up and drop that down on top of the oil. Sizzle, here we go. Love it. And drop it down into the pan, break it up, and that is, and by now, goodness me, if you've been with me for a while, you'll know that this is to break out the natural volatile oils of the onion and start the process of enjoying it as life as a cook, you know, this is it. And then I've got 3 stalks of celery here. I'm going to do one all on its own. That's great fun. That's almost as fun as a banana. Banana. Keep it both sides of the Atlantic. 2 at the same time is a little slower. But a banana is terrific stuff. If you want to start to learn to speed chop, try it there. It has no resistance whatsoever. 3 stalks of celery onto the top. 1 slightly charred on the top there. Good. And then a smallish carrot. Really, I don't think you need a lot of carrots in this dish, but since all of this is going to be giving up the ghost, it doesn't matter really how it's chopped. It's just got to be chopped. And by giving up the ghost, I'm not going to put it in the finished dish. I'm not going to put it in the finished dish. I'm just going to have this as, this is all seasoning. This is to make a great braised seasoning. All right, 2 cloves of garlic, belt it down, and scoop it up. Pop that in too. And just 2. I don't want it to be too over garlicky. This has such strength of character in this dish. It's just amazing. It sounds silly, isn't it, talking about a character and food, but I mean that's what it is. It's got nuances and terrific stuff. 3 ounces of a tomato paste. Now it's not tomato puree and it's not tomato sauce, but it's a thick paste. And this was not known about 100 years ago. This is a new invention, a new concept, and it works brilliantly. See how this goes round and round the pan here? Well, we're going to cook that down. Look, if I pull that back, can you see that textured pattern on the bottom of the pan? You see how the tomato is lying on the top of that? That fills in that little waffle cut on the bottom, and that's going to caramelize. It's going to go deep brown. It's going to give me a mahogany color. It's called the Maillard reaction, and yeah, good. Now I can just put that on there and let that go and keep stirring it. We'll come back and see when it gets really dark brown and see what it looks like. Now, ready for the supermarket? Okay. Off we go and try and find something out about this polenta, just a little bit more than I've been able to share with you. Over to you. All right, thanks, Graham. Now, this is one of the most important buttons in the whole business, frankly, as far as I'm concerned. You see, when you're making a special order, when you're doing something like these lamb shanks, you've got to ring up in advance, and it's a great idea to get to know the man's name who's the manager in charge. This is Marv. And, you know, to be able to ring Marv up and say, hey, look, I need 4 lamb shanks, you know, next Thursday, is that all right with you? And he says, yes, great, you know, I can get those things, because they're not normally the sort of thing that you get. So do that, or if you're going to shop sometime, press that button, get to speak to him. They're marvelous people, you know, they're very nice people. Hello.
Hi there, Mr. Graham. Here's your lamb shanks.
Oh, thanks, Marv. Look at those, they look wonderful. Hey, do you mind, I mean, just let's find out from the horse's mouth, do you mind people coming and doing this, pressing that button and asking you for special orders?
No, we don't, not at all. We enjoy it. We'd love to give people any special service that we can. Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks, Marv. Okay. All right, come on, let's have a look at the rest of it. So around the corner, roughly where you normally find flour and things like that, cornstarch, that sort of thing, we're going to look for cornmeal. Now, this is, just open this up so that I can show this to you beforehand. This is the cornmeal that you can get, which takes you about 10 minutes, maybe 15, to be able to slosh up. Now this one we got from, this has to be usually got in bulk and at food co-ops. It isn't available in just your average supermarket. Look at the difference in color there, and look at the difference in the actual grain of it. Now, what that is what we call the aerobic polenta. And the aerobic polenta is one that you stand over the pot and beat it until, I mean, really, it's an all-day thing. It develops great tennis forearm and the rest of it. But it's not the sort of thing that's very attractive nowadays, but you'll notice the color differential here. See the beautiful yellow color there and the paler color there. That's the trade-off you're going to have to get. Great. Back to Graham, and he can finish this dish off, which is sensational. He's not a bad cook, actually, when he gets cracking. Over to you. Well, thanks so much. Now, look, have a look at this. You see how that has gone on the bottom of the pan there? If you flake it up, it honestly looks as if it's burnt, doesn't it? But it's got to go that brown in order to be able to have the effect that I want to be able to have. Now, what you would do in these circumstances is to now take the lamb. Now, here is a lamb shank, a perfect little lamb shank. They should be about 8 ounces each. And if they're any more than 8 ounces each, hey, guess what? You've gone more than lamb, and you could be into mutton. And if you try this dish with mutton, I don't think you're going to enjoy it, quite honestly. And that happened to me the other day. We got some very large ones and just didn't like it. Now turn these over and make sure that the outside is crisp. Well, not crisp, but I mean nicely browned. You want to get on with it, don't you? You're going to wait your turn. And just put that over there like that. Good? Okay, and just to make sure that the flesh on the outside is just touched. You can see what it looks like. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So I want actually 2 cups of the wine that we discussed right there. See how hot that is? Shake it up together. Make sure that any residue whatsoever which is on the bottom of the pan is scraped into the sauce now, and you will get the greatest looking sauce you've ever seen. Little piece of rosemary is just a 4-inch piece of rosemary there. It's just tucked down into the bottom and adds a perfume to that which is incredible. Pop a lid on the top, find the oven, it's usually behind you, and then put this in at 350 degrees Fahrenheit, and make sure that the handle will stand that. 350 degrees Fahrenheit, put it in there, and leave it for 2 hours. Now, at the end of 2 hours, you're going to find that the vegetables look like this, and you say, ah! That's okay, you're going to throw them out. Those vegetables are worth nothing. They're just lumps of cellulose. They've given up the flavor. They were just the bed of roots. But underneath, when you pour off the juice, you will find an incredible thing. And in fact, what I always do is use one of these separators, because this is where the dish can really run away with you. I just want to turn the heat down there. If you don't get rid of the fat, you're in real trouble, okay? So we place that there, and you see what's happening is that the fat has risen to the surface, and it is virtually like straining it. So we'll take a pan on the heat, and I hope this isn't too hot, but, that's fine. Go on, cool down. And pour it. I wanted to get this nice and hot quickly. So pour it off the top so that the fat is retained in the strainer and you don't get anything in the dish itself. That would have been solid calories from fat. But this is now strained, and so we're doing well. We've got that on the top, and then this is thickened. But first of all, some mushrooms go in. I've got 12 nice, thick mushrooms. Where's and a knife. Here is mushroom here, and it's made thick by simply cutting it into pieces just that thick, you see, about ½ an inch thick. So it gives a lovely meaty quality to the thing. Drop those down into what is left of the 2½ cupfuls that you strain from here. And let me show you what, oh yes, the rest of them. And it will almost completely fill that pot. Don't worry about it, because these will actually cook through enough for my purposes. Bring the heat up just a little bit here so as to bring it to the boil. And this is what one of the lamb shanks looks like. You cook the lamb shanks, you saw the vegetables, now this is what the lamb shanks looks like. You cook the lamb shanks until literally you can just prise it off the bone. It is so tender, it just comes away. Keep it in the pieces that form around the lamb shank so that you've got little bits like this. They're the real pieces. And those are the bones, and that's the meat that you're going to get off it. So it's an awful lot of bone to meat. Well, that's right. That's the way it comes. And they're quite inexpensive, actually. Well, you know, things are not ever inexpensive nowadays. I've got here in the fridge the polenta. Remember we made the 2 discs? There's the small one, and there's the larger one. And just before we do that, we get some Swiss chard, about a couple of 1 pound bunches of Swiss chard, and I pre-seasoned this before so that it was seasoned throughout with a little salt and pepper. There's nothing worse than just put salt on stuff and you've just got a well-salted top and nothing underneath. So put that on there, 2 minutes. This is just coming up to the boil there, that's fine. You get here a little red wine and some arrowroot, about 2 tablespoons of arrowroot, and usually I put 4 tablespoonsful of liquid, just a couple of extra tablespoonsful of liquid to the arrowroot itself, and swirl it round in the pot. One of these days I'm going to invent something that does this easily. I'm really looking forward to that. Good. This is just coming to the boil. You can see it trembling there, and the mushrooms have had enough time to be able to work. Just pour that into the top, and arrowroot thickens instantly. See how that looks now, how those mushrooms look? It's wonderful looking appearance. Now what we do is you just simply take, let me just turn that one off, save power. You take this smaller piece and then you lift up the meat and place the meat on the top of the smaller bit. You actually mound it up so that it forms a decent mound. You gather it together, stay together for me, thank you. And then take a slice of the chard off the top, just a couple of pieces of the just cooked chard over the top. Just lay it on the top like so. And then take the larger piece and just simply drop that over the surface. Press it down and put a little cheese on the top. Now, put that in the oven at 300 degrees Fahrenheit. All right. Slip it in there. Pull it out the bottom. Ho, 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 ho. And look, see how it crusts on the top there? Doesn't that look neat? And then you cut a wedge out of it, just like that. A beautiful wedge. Lift it up, and look how that looks. Isn't that great? Oh, lift it up, it's slippery. And then place the sauce which you've got here over the top and around the side. Just layer it out. Doesn't that look grand as it slithers out? And then take the Swiss chard right off the top, laying it on the side, a heap, beautifully fresh and real, with a dusting of parsley and a little jicama salad on the side, or cucumber, something crisp with lime and cilantro in it. Does that look nice? Let's have a look at the colors. Oh, numbers. Oh, boy. Tell you what, it's a real rib-sticking dish, that one. And it compares to this as a classic. This is the lamb shank, just braised, just as if it came out, and a sauce over the top with vegetables accompanying it. Now, really, it's almost the same sort of thing, but we're looking at the classic method of doing it and the classic method of retaining the fat in the sauce. But by not doing that, we knock that down to 758 by 200 calories. We knock the 48 grams of fat down to 23 grams of fat. Still a lot, but I'm not making any pretense here. 62 grams of carbohydrate, 28% of calories from fat, which is a whole lot better than 46, and then 208 with cholesterol, and 562 with sodium, which is way down, almost half on the sodium as well. So really, they are good numbers for a celebrative dish. And let's face it, when you eat things like this, you are celebrating the past, celebrating your relationship to food and the table. And I'll be careful when I wipe my lips like that, because I want to take a piece out of it. It's so nice. Now this is a really great dish. It's all the things. It's crisp as well, with that little salad on the side. Don't forget, if you don't have jicama, you could use cucumber. Okay? If you've been with me for a while, you know that what we've been looking at is a new way of assessing food by the 4 food groups. Now, the normal 4 food groups are really quite easy. In the past, it started off with a little square, and you had the 4 food groups, which was the agricultural department invented that, and that went well. And now they've reinvented the wheel, and they've come up with the pyramid, if that isn't using too many metaphors. And now, in levels, we consume food with fat at the very top and with grains and carbohydrates at the bottom, obviously. Now, that's a good idea. But what about you and I? We are not a farmer, we're not farmers, and so we've been looking at some of the ways that we respond to food. For example, variety, comfort, creativity, satisfaction. So I've split it up into those 4 different food groups, and let's have a look at them. We did on one previous occasion look at variety and say to ourselves, hey, there's more variety really from fruit and vegetables than anything else. So between 5 and 9 half-cup measures of fruit or vegetables per day gives us tremendous variety, much more than we'd get from meats and fish and poultry and things like that. Creativity, which doesn't, by the way, feature ever in the 4 food groups. Creativity is really herbs and spices and seasonings, which is the creative side of the bright notes, the sparkles, the firework displays that we can make out of food. So that's a very important segment. Then satisfaction I'll get to on a future program, but comfort as of now, I think we look at comfort, at least I do, as tradition and to a stage culture. And in both cases, I want to downsize the amount of food that I have in that regard. Now, let's try and look at that one. If I have ice cream in my culture and it's 2 giant scoops, then downsizing it would be 1 scoop. If in this case, with this dish, I would normally sit down and have literally almost 3/4 of a pound of meat on a larger hot like this. And the sauce with the fat still left in it, that would be cultural and traditional, and it would register with me, and I'd say, Mum, that's just the way Grandpa or Grandma used to make it, terrific stuff. But if you do it in this way, you can still make a presentation out of it. You can still have the comfort you have, but you've downsized it to about 50% of the fat. Think of this, wherever the cultural, traditional thing that you love so much, cut the fat by 50% and increase the plate with foods that you really love, like polenta and chard and things like that. It'll work for you, I tell you, comforting. There is nothing neater in the whole world than to have comforting food with family and friends. I know I keep on saying it to you, but please get back to the table and enjoy each other. God bless you. See you next time. Bye.